So this time I want to talk about something different. I want to talk about gacha games. So what is gacha games? It's a game where you can spend main currency to get a random character or something with a chance of highest rarity. Normally they encourage you to spend real money for a guaranteed roll. The term gacha itself seems based on gashapon machine in Japan. I didn't know any gacha game up until my first exposure in around 2015, and my first gacha game was a crappy one. That was when I started to try many gacha games. Every popular series that I know got a gacha game of their own. The Fate series got FGO. Final Fantasy got like three different gacha game. Dragon Ball got a gacha game. Even a freaking Konosuba got its own gacha game. It's so crazy to think that there is a gacha game for any series that we have seen. The success of gacha games managed to get the attention of small and big companies alike to get some profit from the predatory gacha. All of them want to drain your wallet. But I have to say that this kind of game has a big weakness. Why is that? Did you hear the news about Princess Connect, Dragalia Lost, Illusion Connect, and others? Gacha game itself has so many flaws, but the one big concern when you want to start playing a gacha game is the game itself shutting down. And I want to talk about that today. This is the one thing I don't like about gacha games. My biggest fear when I want to start playing any gacha game. Gacha game has the same problem like any online games in general. It will someday shut down, and when that happens, you lose everything in this game. All of your progress will vanish just like that. We don't own the game. It's normally free to download, but the longevity of the game itself depends on how much profit they get. So, how did they get profit from this kind of game? Well, microtransaction and many things. First thing first, they have to be as stingy as possible with abysmal summon rates like zero point 0.1 chance to get a 5 star or SSR character or something. The lack of currency to get the last rewards, plaster as many bundles as possible in the shop to entice the attention of players to buy the premium currency with a cheaper price slapped on it, and so on. They have to do that. If a gacha game is too generous with the player, then it needs another source of profit, like Azur Lane skins for example. Once a gacha game shut down, you will never be able to play that game again, unless if they released an offline version for you to play, which is very unlikely. It's funny that people keep hoping that a failed gacha game will have an online version in the future. So far, most of the developer of the game never released any offline version. Most of the dead gacha games don't have an offline version. Even if it has an offline version, it's just a shell of what it's supposed to be, with limited features and characters. Some of the offline versions that I see were made by a dedicated fan, not by the company itself. This is the reason why I don't play gacha games too often, unless when there is an event happening that involves big rewards, free characters, and login bonus. I don't put too much hope in any gacha game unless if it's a highly successful game, then yes, it will last longer than other gacha games. I still don't understand why would people spend their money to get something inside the game. Meanwhile, the game itself will vanish along with what you purchased. Like I said, we don't own the game. It's just a temporary enjoyment. There are gacha games that I'm sure will last very long, like Fate Grand Order and MiHoYo, Hoyoverse games. Genshin Impact in particular is an anomaly among other gacha games that I know. I will talk about that someday. But yeah, Hoyoverse games should last very long because of the success of Genshin and the design of each game they have. Now, personally, I have a mixed feeling about gacha games sometimes. There is an enjoyment that I felt when I got the 5 star or SSR character. The story of certain gacha games managed to impress me to the point that I felt this is better than AAA games. Sometimes the sometimes just the character design was enough to entice me. But I really dislike the gacha system. In some games, it's a requirement to actually have gacha characters to progress through the main story or to make progress easier. The summon rates is usually 1% or below, and that is extremely low. But they have to do that because that is how they get profit from this. The game itself is usually free. It really sucks when you run out of currency and you want that character on the banner. You want to kidnap them. I do like the story of gacha games, but there is a big problem with that. See, gacha games are designed to never end until the server shut down, while gaining profit along the way. The main story will keep going as well. And this is the problem. Once the game shut down, what happened to the main story? There are a few possibilities. First, there is nothing, absolutely nothing. It's an abrupt end, and you will never know what is supposed to happen in the story. Second, if the game has 1 or 2 years or more gap between, let's say, Japanese and global version, and the global version is behind JP, then they have to speed up the progress so that global players can at least enjoy the story for the last time, if they care. And the last possibility, the developer already planned to end the game in a fixed date, and the story will be complete, as in it has an actual ending. But the only game I know that does something like that is Regalia Lost, and that is a Nintendo game. You know what kind of treatment they got. Now, I don't know much about older gacha games, but the older ones seem to be better at some aspects. Games like Grand Blue Fantasy is able to hold itself really well until today. Honestly, it's just sad to see the shutdown of these gacha games. There was that heavy feeling that I got when I heard about Star Ocean Nemesis announcement. It was such a great game with beautiful 3D model. I feel like a lot of these games would be better if it were, let's say, a non-gacha console game. Games like Fate Grand Order has mediocre gameplay compared to the arcade version. It's just red, blue, and green card. Some of these games are still alive just because they carry a big name like Fate and Final Fantasy. Also, I bet games like Punishing Grey Raven could have been a great rival to Nier, and the list goes on. And besides profit, a gacha game can fail because of other factors, like the mismanagement of Monster Strike, for example. I'm not even talking about the same scenario in the long run. That's why, in my opinion, some of these games should not be a gacha game in the first place. Well, that's it for today, folks. Thank you for watching.